Hey, True Believers, England here. Welcome to round 2 of Comic Book Thunderdome, Robert Willing versus Fan Thing, where they discuss who is the best artist in comic book history. And you can kind of tell by the thumbnail here who they chose. Anywho, kick back, relax, and enjoy. And let's get this party started. So, for the second question.
All right.
Are you ready? Because this you got to think back on this one. Who is the best artist of all time?
Perez.
Who is the best comic book artist of all time?
I'll go with Neil Adams.
Okay. All righty. So,
Ow.
Robert, you're arguing for George Perez. And
Yes, I
Hey, Anya.
Yeah. What?
Heard background noise here.
That's a loud TV, Anya.
Can you turn it down, please? I'm asking him to turn it down. If that's his computer, it's not the TV. TV,
Oh,
I
really?
have
Wow.
muted. I have muted.
am. Ow, my ears. Ow.
Like we got. Okay. This is.
If I had to mute this guy for a time.
This is funny, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. All righty. So, Robert, you're arguing George Perez, and Fan Thing, you're arguing for Neil Adams. Go, Robert. Tell us why you chose George Perez.
George Perez, he's very good at writing and drawing distinctive characters, brilliant at character designing, can do huge group shots, and loves adding more characters in it. Reiterating, every one of them is distinct. He can do all sorts of things. Characters already established, create new characters. And the man has, while he's missed a few deadlines, he is still a workhorse.
Okay.
Fan Thing, why Neil Adams?
Well, as I was looking through old comics today, I was able to look back through my comics going back to the 70s, and I was seeing the name Neil Adams pop up from everything from Conan to Batman and everywhere else across the spectrum. And every time it was a strong emotional content, a very clear, easy to follow form. It was always a very expressive, very direct, communicative, the showing, don't telling. There was a cruder feel to the art, but at the same time, there were certain iconic aspects that Neil Adams brought in. Most people would think, it was recently commented a number of times, a number of channels, that Neil Adams was the definitive Batman run for a long time. There are other artists who are good, but I think that Neil Adams brings something to the table that some of the others just simply don't.
All righty. You guys argue. Why is yours better than the other one?
Well, my argument is that in many regards, yes, they're both very strong artists. And Adams was strong in his younger days. Nowadays, it's been hit and miss very much, whereas Perez has hardly missed a beat. Perez and Adams, he's good at distinctive, different styles, but usually the dark, gothic types. You look at some of the other works that he's just paid for, but he has no passion into it. He can, and it's not really that good by comparison. Whereas Perez, even if it's just an assignment, he is still able to hold his own and make it strong every single time. Look at stuff like his Isaac Asimov's Robots, or whatever that book was called. That one, not his strongest, but not that bad. But then you look at some of his incredible stuff like Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earths, all those. Everything has always been a masterpiece, but you can still tell what's going on in it.
Okay. Fan Thing, you don't have to wait for him to stop. If you've got a rebuttal right away, you can say, hey, whoa.
No,
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're arguing favorite flavors of ice cream and you like all ice cream, you don't have to protest the other ice cream. You just have to point out why you like yours. So Perez came up mostly because it keyed recently, because I was looking through old comics, and Neil Adams. The iconic creation of long-term characters. You've already mentioned a number of items that Perez was deeply involved in, Teen Titans and others. When I think of Conan, I pretty much think of Neil Adams. When I think of early Batman runs, even the shape of the bat cowl and how things changed over time, it's Neil Adams. How many other long-term hard effects into the industry have individual artists had? And I think that Neil Adams had that impact. I think it was mostly related to that emotional content, that show don't tell. I mean, I can't deny that I greatly enjoy Perez. I mean, I'm a comic book guy, but for me, of the two, I would still choose Neil Adams. Unless you could show me Perez doing Conan better than Adams.
Well, actually, I would argue Conan. I always felt Buscema did much better at Conan than Adams did, personally. But as far as with Perez, well, I don't think I've ever seen him draw Conan. It's probably in there somewhere. But and those people in the comments saying he has 3 or 4 faces. Well, one, that's still more than John Byrne's 2 faces. But,
but you know, that's sadly true. I have to just applaud you for bringing up John Byrne's 2 faces.
Yeah, and that give it to a lot of artists. A lot of artists do not usually do the same faces. And as far as faces wise, there are a lot of times where Adams, his faces either look really good or they look like melted faces. I hate to say that. Whereas it might be same faces for Perez, but at least they're consistent.
Yeah, I could see that. My main issue has always been that active action in the comics. I think when you see someone who's particularly good at drawing the distinct individual art, they're not always also good at motion or that engagement of the eye across panels. And I think that Adams has that. If the art bleeds at times or melts, as indicated with what you said, I think that isn't necessarily a negative. That's almost like a motion blur in my mind. If it's a single straight on, I guess I'd have to just eat that one as my own conceit in liking the artist.
Yeah. Now, well, that is very fair. But as far as still with overall things, Adams, as far as I've always looked at, when a lot of his stuff like Batman is very good, but a lot of it's still niche. It's very niche with a lot of stuff. Because if you look at some of the other times he's been trying to do like his Superman coming of the Superman stuff, it just, something felt off in a lot of regards. Some of it was good, some of it felt off. But when he's doing like the Gothic stuff, it's great. But that's the thing with Adams. He has a niche where he really is at his A game, whereas Perez is across the board in any type of stuff you put the man on.
So the argument that you're giving is that he's a working man's artist and he's able to perform at a high level across multiple spectrums. And,
At high quality, yes.
You know, how do the actual lengths of time of career compare between Perez and Adams?
Oh.
Okay, that's time. That's time.
All right,
I gave you guys an extra. Nope, Rob. Time. I gave you guys an extra minute because of the noise. Thank you very much for silencing that while they argued more on you. Okay, so Dalton.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Fan Thing because he seems to have more. He seemed to have more grasp on like the overall oeuvre of his artist, whereas Tom was making the sort of workhorse argument. And in art, it's really more about, yeah, you might be able to do this consistently, but can you do anything that's, you know, legitimately worthwhile? Is
okay.
Sort of where I come down on it.
Okay. Once again, you and I are on the opposite side. I went with Rob, and I'll tell you why. Both of them argued pretty well for their artist. I liked the fact that Fan Thing hit Robert with the diversity of Neil Adams' art. I liked that Robert mentioned design. Then they the expressiveness of Neil Adams, the fact that the detail George Perez can put into art. They really did knock each other back and forth with why their artist was great. But when it came to telling me why the other guy wasn't as good, Robert nailed Fan Thing, and even Fan Thing agreed that Adams' art was inconsistent. And based on that, I've got to go the best argument.
I do hate it when the combatants concede ground while they're in the middle of the debate. So
Yeah.
I might have to change my answer actually on that.
But yeah, since that I got to give it up to Robert. I think he made the stronger argument against than Fan Thing. Anya, where do you stand? Because we are now tied. Where do you stand?
Oh man, because I as myself, I prefer Neil Adams over Perez. Well, I do like Perez, so it's kind of hard for me to say who argued it better.
Well,
Ooh,
that's
yeah.
what
They both did concede points on either side. So I was going to be tied, and of course I have to be the tiebreaker.
Yes, you do. You have to have to figure out which one to you gave the better argument and why. What was the point that won you over?
Well, Robert was saying that yes, George Perez is more diverse, but Neil Adams has been the. If I was to say who had a bigger impact on comics,
no, not the artist, not the artist. You're arguing Robert versus Fan Thing.
My argument.
Okay.
Fan Thing did make the argument that Neil Adams was the seminal artist for a lot of things. Yeah.
Okay.
Perez was across the board, but Adams had more of the impact, and Fan Thing did make that argument. So I'll have to go to Fan Thing.
Okay, so Fan Thing got a point. They are tied. Those two, I would have argued for George Perez. I would have brought up the fact that he did actually do a lot of iconic work. If you mention diversity in Neil Adams, you come right back with the fact that George Perez has drawn every character in the DC universe, every Avenger,
but
I think
every Justice League member.
Oh,
yeah, so I would have definitely hit him with that.
But Neil Adams has one of the most reprinted panels of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, congratulations to having that one panel.
Hey.
Along with Marv Wolfman. George Perez recreated the DC universe. So there you go, guys. Two arguments for two of the greatest artists in comic book history. Are either one the one that you would pick? And do you think that the judges were right? Do you think that we should have gone the way we did? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That's the most important thing. Make sure your notifications are on and ring that bell so you don't miss anything. Cool things happen around these parts. Now, this is the way I'm trying to make a living. Admit it. I admit it. So if you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi. Drop $1 in the tip jar there. Or you could commission a video. Pick whatever topic you want, whatever subject you want. We'll get the video out to you ASAP. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers. Thank you very, very much for watching.